Okay.
And also I'm an ace, but a bunch of different things I have. First off, I mentioned in my speech a little while ago that making a lot of the material bilingual. Being from Arizona, we have a lot of chefs who would prefer it, even though they speak English a little bit, they prefer it that way. Can there be a portal open for those ACE members to discuss questions? Now the leagues may have something, I don't know about that.
Okay.
But some kind of a forum
Sure.
to discuss
If
information.
you have multiple questions, so let me kind of go through them one at a time to make it a little bit easier. There are things that we are looking at doing. Number one, we are looking at changes to the process of certification to be able to reflect seasonality of products, to reflect availability of certain products in certain areas. As to the example I use is we do certification testing in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico and such, and for them to get Maine lobster flown down from Boston to the Caribbean is very expensive, and many times when the product is delivered, it's dead. So, and why should we do that when they have lobster, Caribbean lobster, right outside their door, and they can just go out and grab one and bring it? So we're looking at that. It was brought to my attention today about in the Philippines, where we do certification testing, that artichokes are very hard to come by. And so I am going to be reaching out to the 3 culinary schools in the Philippines to ask them to provide me with an alternative to artichokes, that they have something that's local, that can show technique, can show cooking technique, and can be properly prepared as a recommendation, as an alternative to artichokes. That we're looking at as people respond, send me an email, I'm asking them, please provide me with an alternative. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, they also have a difficult time in getting lobster. So they use a lot of whitefish and other ingredients. Make a suggestion to me. I can authorize, as the chair, that change. And then we would share that with the individual groups to say, going forward in your area, these are the products that you can now use in place of Maine lobster, or artichokes, or whatever. So that's what we're looking to do as far as that. It's not going to be shooting from the hip, but I want input from multiple people to be able to give some input and to be able to share their knowledge and experience, and then we'll look at it, review it, and then make the recommendation within a very reasonable time, since it only has to go to a person of one. Okay? Your second question was about ACEs?
About having a portal,
okay.
A forum for discussion.
It certainly can be looked into. It's the first time it's ever been asked, and it'll be something that we will certainly look at creating. There are a lot of questions that are always generated, and they are usually sent to the ACF office, to the ladies in the certification office. They usually send them to me for answer. And what I do is I respond directly to the chef, and I copy the people in the national office so that they have the response to be able to track for frequently asked questions. And so yes, we could do that very easily and have a portal for the evaluators to be able to go to and have an area where they could look up questions and answers. It's a great idea, and it's easily done. Anything else?
Lots of things.
Well, you have the opportunity.
A lot of us trying to do a certification a year, because there are, Arizona, you have multiple leagues and multiple ACEs in California that are traveling. It's very hard for us to pick up the one a year.
Sure.
It might be a process of looking at an 18-month span, something of that nature. I don't know.
Understand.
Because some of the ones who I've signed up for, they canceled 2 days before. I had my plane tickets, my car reservation. Now I'm stuck.
Right. Well, here's the situation, and you know, we have put the evaluator training on hold right now. We have several issues. Number one, let's say the number, I think the number is we have 241 chapters across the United States for the ACF. We probably have roughly 450 approved evaluators, or evaluators that are in the system as far as going through their apprentices and such. And we don't have that many practical exams. For you to have to go from California to Arizona to, whether it be get an apprentice or to be able to assist in a practical exam somewhere else of being an evaluator, if the chapter is picking it up for you, that's hosting the practical exam, that's great, but a lot of chapters cannot afford to, and we have to look at it to make sure that it is a viable situation, that you as volunteers should not have to be spending your own money to do something that's beneficial for the ACF. And it's unfair to you if you pay $300, $500 out of your pocket to go be an evaluator someplace and you're not being compensated for it. That's going above and beyond as far as being a volunteer in my mind. And I will say that right off the bat, thank you for doing that. But we have to look at the situation to make sure that it is a viable process for the candidates and a viable process for the evaluators to be a part of the program. And there will be information coming out regarding the term ACE, certification evaluators. The term ACE, and you will be the first ones that are hearing this, and it'll be out in the public knowledge in a few weeks, is that the ACE term, the acronym, is going away. And that is because it is also an acronym used by other industries. And so what is going to happen, that all evaluators will now become certification evaluators across the board. There will no longer be an ACE. The term ACE has to be removed from business cards, off of chef coats. I think I have some business cards that still have ACE on it, so I'm passing those out, but I won't get it reprinted anymore. But we have to make a change. And change is difficult for some people, but change is also a positive event for certification. There's been a lot of people that have been a part of the process. It has a 40-year history in the ACF, and the practical exam for the last 10, 12 years has been something that has been very positive for many, has been a negative for some, and we need to be consistent in how we do the practical exam, how we evaluate and critique the practical exam for each candidate, to, if they do not pass, to encourage them to come back and to take the practical exam a second time. So there are a lot of things that are being worked on. In the next few weeks there will be test site administrator manual update. There will be an explanation that I just gave you about the certification evaluators, and making sure that everyone understands that this is the responsibility going forward. And another point that I need to make regarding certification evaluators, and I will use that term now that I've told you, is that we have to be fair to ourselves. We have all signed a conflict of interest form, and we as evaluators should not be evaluating someone that works for us or is a teaching assistant or is a sous chef or whatever. That is a conflict of interest. And when that is brought to the attention of the Certification Commission, those people that created that conflict of interest will be put on notice. And if it happens a second time, they will have their privileges of being a certification evaluator removed. We have to take it serious. Too many people spend a lot of time, a lot of money to take the practical exam, and we need to treat them with dignity and respect and fairly. And that conflict of interest is a big issue. Not that it happens often, but it's an issue that we have to address. Any other questions? Yes?
I just got a couple. One, I've been asking for well over 6 years that our information be translated to Spanish or Asian, and it's still not done.
Okay.
Is there a reason why that we're waiting so long when 65% of the workforce is Hispanic?
Sure.
And we can't get members. We could get a lot more members, and they can even start their own charters if we had the information to them. But we're not giving it to them. It holds us back.
Agreed. It is something that we have to look at. Number one, that it is properly translated so that it is understood and it means the same thing in both English and Spanish. And I can't say Spanglish because that's what I talk in the kitchen, is Spanglish, okay? Yes, it can be done, but there is quite an expense to it. Who can help us cover that expense, whether it is the ACF or there is someone that is willing to underwrite that, I can't say, but I certainly understand. There is a question that I received the other day from Norwegian Cruise Lines, and so it's a pertinent subject, is that a lot of their cooks on the cruise ships don't understand American law, United States law, because they're international employees. How can we adjust the questions on the written exam to be reflective of their situation? So there are a lot of things that we have to work on. There are a lot of things that have to be addressed. It is going to take time. We have to make sure that we do it right the first time and not have to go back and correct it a second time because we were in too much of a hurry to do things to just appease the masses. Okay?
The other comment I had was Chef Burnett at the National Officer of the Board of Governors mentions the certifications in the terms once certified, always certified. Is that still in the making or is that still questionable?
Okay. I'll answer two different things regarding the presentation by Chef Metz, who I respect tremendously. The task force made recommendations, okay? There was a recommendation, number one, in my recent letter that went out to do away with NCCA, okay? NCCA is the accrediting body that gives the respect and the credentialing to certification, all right? That contract was due to expire in February. Our first meeting for the commission was January 12th. We just had another meeting March 23rd. We discussed Chef Metz's recommendation from the task force regarding NCCA very diligently and thoroughly, and a decision was made to continue the relationship with NCCA because we needed to continue the value of certification that everyone has worked hard for or wants to work hard for, to continue that value. If we did not, and we said, okay, as of February 15th, there is no NCCA, and somebody's going to ask, well, what does that do to my certification? Well, it's just a certification, it's a bunch of letters. There is no meaning to it, there is no structure behind it as far as credentialing, and that for us to renew that contract has given us time to allow the commission to work out a strategy for the future, and hopefully by the end of the year, in enough time for before the renewal of the contract comes up again, to be able to announce a direction, a organization that is going to support what we're doing as far as certification, to give it the value and the structure that it needs to move forward. Okay? So that was the NCCA issue, which you didn't ask, but it's the task force. The certification for life The only certification for life right now is for someone that has been certified for, Heidi, how many years? Sure. Where's David Goodwin when I need him? He can explain it well. You reach an age of 62, and I think you've been certified 3 or 4 times? Okay. You've been certified a number of times. You reach the age of 62. You can then, when you apply for your next certification, you become certified for life. Okay? There are things we're looking at. There are things that people have expressed to me since the ChefConnect in Baltimore and my letters going out to the membership. People have sent me emails asking me questions, explaining their situation, whether it's certification related or not. But I've answered every one of those emails and with honesty and integrity. And I've told them, you know, hey, you lost your certification. Right now we're looking at it because, you know, they didn't follow the process. They received a letter at 3 years saying that, okay, in 2016 their certification is up for renewal. 2014 they get a letter. 2015 they get a letter saying you have 1 year to get your certification. You get a letter 3 months out saying your certification is up in January of 2016. Oh God, I didn't realize, I forgot. And they're trying to get their 80 certification hours in 3 months. And if they haven't participated in 5 years since their last renewal or their certification, how are they going to get their 80 points for recertification? That's been an issue that's been communicated, and we're trying to figure out a way to help people. There are ideas of possibly doing it on an annual basis and tying it into your dues that you pay on an annual basis, so that every year you pay something towards your certification. Every year you prove that you had 15 or 20 CEHs during the course of the year, and it's a heck of a lot easier to do it every year than to do it every 5 years. So that's something we're trying to discuss. Okay? Joe?
With that in mind, Michael, with people that are in limbo right now, longtime members, they got caught in this thing where they were certified for many years, they're retiring, and they're saying that from a PR standpoint, from the ACF and the commission, you look at it and say, okay, can we identify these individuals that perhaps are in limbo? Can we do something with them, whether it's an honorary, while they're retired perhaps, and so on, so that we keep them in the fold and the positive of what we've done will probably help us down the road. And let's face it, what, 10, 15 years will be gone, most of them, you know, we get it exposed ourselves. But because in our chapter, because of the fact, you know, we have a lot of the older folks who've been members for years, we're getting a lot of that.
Understand. It's something we have to look at. We've had some discussion about an honorary certification for those that might have lost it or those that deserve it and never did it. But it's something we have to work through, because if we do it for one, we have to make sure we do it for all, and it's fair for everyone. You know, there was the program several years ago where you could buy back your certification because you missed out, didn't recertify, whatever, and you know, people had to pay money to do that. It's something we're going to look at. I'm not going to say it's immediate, but it's something that's on the agenda to look at, and your point is well taken.
Because I know two members that I had, they're 60s now, but both of them didn't want to drop out, but one had cancer. 5 years, he called me and said, "Well, can I get my certification back?" I approached the committee at that time, they said no.
Right.
Another person had serious heart attacks and was unable to work now. He went back, they had to do the same question.
You know, I've gotten those kind of emails, and I understand it totally. You know, the most important thing that we have to take care of is our personal well-being, our personal lives, and our family, not just work and not just certification, not just ACF, although it is an important part. But it's something we have to work through. I totally understand. And, you know, someone that says to me, look, I can't afford to pay for my recertification, and if they can't afford to pay for the recertification, there are other scholarships that they can apply for, okay? But if someone has medical issues and such, and they can't get it, my response to them would be, Chef, take care of your health. I'll give you, let's say, you know, a 6-month extension if that's what it takes for you to be able to get it. And that's only a temporary answer, but every situation is different. But until we can work out the details of what we do as far as whether it be an honorary certification, it's something we have to work out. You know, you have the unfortunate news of when a police officer is you know, fatally killed in the line of duty, and you know, so at his funeral, he has been promoted to the rank of detective as a sign of respect for him giving his life in his career. And, you know, it's something we have to look at, and it's something that's been discussed, but we have so much more to accomplish. Okay? Chef?
In regards to taking care of the people that kind of came before us, my big concern is for the CHSs, what is ACF looking at for newer, younger kids who are learning online, homeschooling, you know, that kind of thing, and then also, what does ACF consider about volunteering hours? I do a lot of volunteer work at a local food bank. I teach cooking classes free of charge for refugees and low-income people, and none of that counts.
Well, it can count. There's a way to get around that.
Okay,
And
that's the problem, is it should be a little more streamlined.
well, here, let me finish. I understand what you're saying, but within your chapter, if you volunteer, and if your chapter set up the proper structure as to their definition of local CEHs, your chapter could create opportunities for volunteerism, for teaching classes where the chapter is recognizing what you're doing volunteering, and they are giving you the potential for gaining CEHs through the chapter. And through the chapter, it would be recognized through the ACF. So that, and I'm not trying to, you know, go the back door, but if the chapter is recognizing volunteerism, if the chapters are recognizing students that volunteer at their local meetings, at students that volunteer and participate in an event where chefs are, and they are providing them with CEHs that are documented, then it will be recognized because we can make that change. There's also something that I discussed in my presentation at board this morning, is that chefs need to notify the certification office about the potential of participation in, whether it's a seminar, in events, in things that we can approve CEHs in advance, instead of it being that when you're applying for your recertification and, well, I volunteered and did this. Well, it's after the fact, it's not recognized. But if there is something coming from the president that comes to the office and it's requesting CEHs being recognized for this event that's being put on by the chapter, I'm going to support it. So it's just a matter of asking the chapters, the chapter presidents, to get that information to the certification office prior to an event. It's just like if there's a seminar on Rich Rosendale on sous vide cooking, and Brian, how many CEHs is it worth?
16.
Okay, so that's 16 CEHs that it's worth because it was approved in advance. Okay, so if we can get that process started where requests for recognizable CEHs are sent into the certification office, then it's going to be easier for people to acquire the respective CEHs they need on an annual or a 5-year basis.
I know it's worked for me because I've taken a 24-hour seminar from certain pastry chefs during the summer. I submitted ahead with the curriculum. 2 months later, they said, okay, go ahead.
Right.
So,
And we're not going to say, okay, you know, you're taking a 24-hour seminar, I'm going to give you 2 CEHs. We're going to make it that it's worthwhile for your effort because it's continuing education for you. And it's just like continuing education is for all of us that we attend the regional ChefConnects and we attend the national convention to continue our education. I don't go to culinary school anymore. I come here because besides socializing and seeing my friends and colleagues that I see once or twice a year, I go and I attend the seminars. And I get to see, you know, additional CEHs that I need other than just, you know, participating in certain situations. So
I could have like 150 volunteers, like I did at Bite, that are chefs, or culinary students, or food related, and then submit those forms to you.
sure, it would be no problem because if you have 150 students that are there volunteering for a chef event, then they need to understand, hey, this is what you're getting for volunteering and being part of an ACF sanctioned event. And that's beneficial for all of us. You know, we talk about young culinarians being our future. Well, we have to get them indoctrinated into the philosophy of ACF. We've all understood it for years because we've all been around for years. But young people don't understand the value of the ACF certification until they start to get repetitive contacts with the ACF and saying, hey, here, you know, Bobby Smith, you just picked up 3 certification hours, CEHs, continuing education hours, towards your certification as a certified culinarian or as a sous chef or whatever. We have to encourage them to volunteer because they're getting something in return and they're learning something from it. Okay? Let me go over this way. Sure.
I have a question in regards to this, because year before last, we hosted the state conference for Indiana. I did contact National ahead of time to get the CEHs approved because we were giving a total of 7 CEHs. And they were approved, and we can hand out the certificates. However, it's up to the individuals to keep track of those hours. They're not registered at National anymore.
Oh, yes, they are registered. If everyone that's a member of the ACF has their own personal portal, and you need to submit those 7 CEHs to the National Officer Certification Office to, here's a copy of the document, please put these 7 hours on my running total of CEHs. It's just like when you attend the ChefConnect or you go to a national convention, you get notification of you received 28 CEHs for attending the national convention in Orlando. And that information, besides you getting the copy, is put on your own personal page of your continuing CEHs that you have, that you can use that documentation for when your time for recertification comes up. And all you have to do is make a copy of that page and then submit it with your recertification paperwork.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I think you're a little bit incorrect because I just had communications about that. And they said you only have a personal portal if you're already certified. They don't, they will not.
Okay,
they will
thank
not
you.
list your current.
But you can save all your CEHs and you submit it for your certification.
Sure.
You have to submit your initial documentations for it. Thank you for correcting me. No, that's fine. I appreciate it. You know, there's a wealth of information here, and I forget more than I remember. You know, I'm getting a little bit older. But yes, once you are certified, then you have your portal. So, okay? Thank you.
And this goes to the question I wanted to ask. What are we doing nationally to try to digitize and take us where there's less paperwork and that it can be done a little more streamlined? The younger people are going to expect it. We're tethered to these now.
Understand.
How do we get our CHs on this way to you guys? How can we cross that digital divide?
It's a challenge, and I don't have that answer. But until someone is gets that first level of certification and they're in the system, then it's there. I can't give you that answer right now, but it's something we have
Can I
to.
make a suggestion?
Sure.
Why aren't we recruiting these 19 and 20-year-olds who have the knowledge and capability to take us to that next level? At national.
So to have somebody with the IT savviness of a 19 or 20-year-old to
Right.
be a part of the national office. Well, you have the executive director in the back who I know is taking notes, and Heidi will look into it. And I understand. You know, young people today don't read newspapers. Young people today don't watch the news, and you know they get everything from their phone. And that's something that we have to do to connect and to make it that we are making ourselves valuable to them, and it's right there. You know, they want to look at it at 1 o'clock in the morning when they finish class at 11, or they finish work at 11, and they go home and, oh, my phone, let me go see what's going on with the ACF. They need to be able to do it that way. They're not going to go to the web page. They want to get information that's streamed to them more often. You know, I've had 2 communications going out to the membership, and that's the most communications we've had from the Certification Commission, other than at the regional or national. There's a presentation made. We are going to be doing more with print as far as in National Culinary Review. There's going to be certification there more prominent. So, but I agree with you.
Okay, thank you, Chef.
Chef and Beck.
I'd like to make a comment about the CCE certification.
Okay.
First of all, I noticed, well, I've been trying to get it, and I had gotten, well, I'll talk to you about that later, it's a personal issue. But anyway, through the process of trying to get my CCE and reading the qualifications, I noticed that it requires work experience as a chef de cuisine, I believe, is the minimum, sous chef or chef de cuisine. I thought that was a little unfair because I know plenty of great chef instructors, some of which came right out of culinary school and went to be, so they don't have that chef de cuisine experience. And on the other hand, I'm sure there's many chefs out there that could never be a good chef instructor, could never be a good educator.
Agree.
So the other thing I have a little bit of a problem with is we have to also, we are required to get more education than any other level of certification. And yet we're still required to take nutrition and a supervision management. It was really aggravating to me. I just
Understand. Well, and I appreciate that, and you're not the first one that has commented that to me. There are certain, you know, after a certain amount of time, probably the only thing as a chef or that you need to re-up every 3 or 5 years, depending on the state, city, wherever you live, is your sanitation. And that to me is the most important thing. Being a chef for 20 years and have to do the supervisory development, you know, is that necessary anymore? Personally, no. There are changes that are going to be made, and we're evaluating everything. And your information that you're sharing with me today is not the first time that I'm hearing it. And I just need the patience from you to give us the time to do it. We are recruiting volunteers from around the country to sit on subcommittees with us so that there can be some additional knowledge sharing from not just the commission, but people who have shown a great interest in certification and been part of the program in the past. So we want to get others involved in it as well. So there will be people that we're looking to help give us the advice to move forward, because we don't have all the answers. We have ideas, but there are things that we need to do, and we need the help from everyone. So, yes.
So in the practical example, one of the things that I've kind of been volunteering for, and it just hasn't hit yet. So I'm a volunteer. We have a scoring rubric,
Right?
but it's not a rubric, it's a score sheet. A rubric is different than a score sheet. This score sheet, it's tallied, it's done. If I mark an 8, under my own personal philosophy, I write down y minus the first point and y minus the second point.
Okay.
I know that there's others out there that I've done stuff with that will give the 7.5, because at 7.4, they have to write why.
Okay.
As opposed to having a true scoring rubric that says, this is how the lobster's supposed to be done. This is supposed to, did they meet step 1, step 2, step 3?
Understand.
And then you mark, yeah, you mark right up to step 3, it's a 3. Right up to step, and I've offered to help write that rubric.
Okay.
All those levels.
Let me explain one thing. In the information that's going to be coming out soon, and people that know me and sat in my evaluator trainings, I tell people whether it's a score of 7.4 or below or 7.5 or above, you need to write comments. And it's not a one-word comment, salty. Why was it so, or, you know, this was burnt. You need to write full comments. The reason for that is it helps you to give a better critique when it is time for the critique, whether they pass or fail their practical. You have the information in the backup to say why, because you wrote it down. And so that is going to be a new requirement, and the score sheet will be adapted to say comments for all scores, whether 7.4 or below or 7.5 or above. That's going to create consistency, and it's going to create the opportunity for a better critique given by the evaluator to the candidate. Okay? And you have to remember that every one of those lines, it is weighted. So if you're giving an 8 where the value is only a 5%, it's that, or where it's 10%, that's going to affect it more. But we're going to require that comments need to be written for all lines on the test. If I have one comment here, sanitation, good. Then down here, the fish was mushy and overcooked, and there's nothing in between. How can anyone give a fair and consistent and concise critique when they have nothing written on the score sheet? So that's my philosophy on that.
I'll still throw it out there for you for written.
Gotcha. Give me your card afterwards or send me an email. They're working on some reviews. They're meeting with Comera on some things and such. So we will put you to work. Yes?
In regards to that, the manuals change, okay? Can there be some kind of a last page saying, page 22, line whatever was changed? Because
So like a summary.
an addendum to it, because we read through it every time we have a certification come up, just to make sure. And we're not sure if something changed from the last one.
Good point.
Okay?
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, hand over. Yes, sir.
Yeah, back to the continued education. So this gentleman touched on it. If you haven't yet been certified, I'm brand new to the ACF.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here to find out about certification.
Thank you. And I'm very interested in trying to go for a certification for a CC, and I have a work experience and whatnot. But the question back to what this gentleman said earlier is, these continued education hours from coming to these seminars or whatever we're doing here, where is that stored? Where do I obtain that information or that documentation in order to have that at
Okay.
any time?
You will receive a letter because you attended the Chef to Chef conference with a summary of everything that you attended and the number of CEHs that you got for attending here. You need to keep that documentation. Okay? When you start your certification process, you need to pre-apply and get a pre-approval for the level of certification that you want to be certified for. You need to show the information to say that you are, have been a certified executive. You've been an executive chef for 7 years, and you want to get your certification as an executive chef. And so you get pre-approval, then you can start the process. Okay? So you need to have everything. You need to have your documentation to show that you've worked in one job or 3 jobs.
I understand that, but as far as having, this information, the continued education hours, as counting towards any kind of
Right.
certification.
You'll get a summary from here after attending the Chef to Chef conference, probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, do you go to chapter meetings?
Like it's not brand new.
Okay. When you go to chapter meetings and you go to the educational seminar, they should give you documentation to say that you went to this 1 hour seminar, you got a 1 hour CEH. And you save those things, put in a folder, so that when you're ready to do your pre-approval, you have all that documentation together. Okay? Yes, sir, in the back.
Chef, if I can help answer some of the questions for certification for certified culinary educator.
Sure.
When they ask me about nutrition and food and beverage management certification and all that, you have to look at the grand picture, because just because they're requiring these things of you doesn't mean that we just want to see this. When you're teaching nutrition, for example, most of the smaller colleges teach their own nutrition from the chef, but ACF accreditation of the program requires that somebody have so many hours of nutrition in order to teach it. You're not hiring nutritionists to teach the program, and that's why some of those blocks are put into there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's just to say we need to have this and this and this.
Sure. One of the things that we are trying to accomplish is that certification and accreditation are working together more to move forward instead of as two separate entities. We have to invoke change, and we all have to be getting on the same bus to go down the path together. So I certainly understand that, and there are changes that have to happen. So, Brian?
I've got 2 questions. Has there been any discussion on the CCA certification of disconnecting that from the requirement being CEC?
Not yet. I got your long email, and there were a lot of points in it, and they're all great points. Every email I get goes into a member communications folder, so don't think that I read it and I gave you a short response and it gets deleted. No, I keep everything as a reference point. But there's so much that we have to look at. To give you some ideas of what we want to do is we are in the infancy stage of talking about adding a pastry component to the savory side of certification. Okay? How many chefs today, pastry chef calls off sick, you got to make dessert for 250 people. You have to know what you're doing, whether it's making a chocolate mousse, baking a cake, or whatever. We're looking at that to add that component to the savory side. And whether for a certified culinarian, they make a cookie. For a CEC, it's something else. And we're going to be looking at how we can fit that in, and how much we have to change the window of the test to make it a viable component for the savory side. Now, for the pastry side, we're also looking to make changes. There's no knife skills on the pastry side. We want to look at adding that in as a component where they have to show us something. Also want to add potentially something gluten-free, because today I was talking with somebody earlier. 20 years ago, gluten-free was something that nobody talked about because it wasn't a thing. Just like peanut allergies, 20 years ago wasn't as big of a deal as it is today. But we want to be able to provide value to the practical exam, to provide value to the potential employer, to let them know that we have changed the practical exam so that we're showing more competencies and giving them the confidence to hire a certified ACF chef in whatever level, because we've changed the competencies and we have tested them and evaluated them to make sure they can do what we're looking for. So that's something we're looking at. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some testing to see, can we do this if we increase the time to, let's say, 3 hours and 45 minutes, and you have the 15-minute window, so it becomes a 4-hour program versus the 3-hour and a 15-minute window. We're looking to make changes to give it value and make it pertinent for today's chefs and going forward. You know, there are people that ask about, well, you know, can I use a thermal circulator? And the answer is right now, no. Until thermal circulators become an everyday piece of equipment like a pot and pan in a kitchen, why should some people be able to use a thermal circulator because, hey, you know, I'm in, you know, this kitchen and we have it, but the person next to them doesn't. We have to do what's fair for all and not allow a few to be able to take advantage of the situation because they have a thermal circulator in their kitchen. So that's what we're working on. Yes, Chef?
Okay, so this goes to my final question. This goes to our email that we sent back and forth.
Oh, and what, okay, 1 second. What's your name so I can try and remember?
Scott Bass.
Okay.
Okay, so-
I don't remember, but I answered about 50
Okay,
emails.
really clear.
Go ahead.
What is ACF doing to call out people that call themselves chefs that really aren't?
Interesting question. First of all, let me tell you this, that we are going to have and we are going to stick to requirements prior to someone being pre-approved for testing for a certain level of certification, that they meet those time work experience requirements. If it says that you have to be an executive chef for 5 years before you are eligible to take your CEC, then that's the 5 years and that's what's going to have to be lived by. If someone wants to be a go for, you know, achieved their CEC and they want to go for CMC, then maybe it becomes that from your point of being a CEC, that you have to be a CEC for a minimum of 7 years before you can move on to becoming a CMC candidate. We are going to do away with, you know, I won a gold medal and I take nothing away from anyone that competes in the Culinary Olympics, and I am a sous chef. I want to be a CEC and I'm going to circumvent the practical exam. How can they be certified as a CEC if they are not working in the position as a CEC? That's what we're going to clear up and communicate and maintain going forward, is that there are going to be specific requirements, and if you don't meet those requirements, then you cannot be tested for CEC. Okay? Yes, sir.
So, Chef, this kind of ties in with this question. I'm a CPA.
Okay?
And so, in the CPA world, we have similar problems with all these problems. And one of the things is that the CPAs do is, in order to say, I'm going to add value to your license, we're going to go around the country, and if you're calling yourself an accountant, and you're not an accountant, we're going to come after you. And so I'm kind of thinking that's what he's asking is, you know, we've got all these people out there that are calling themselves chefs. You see Master Chef on television, of all things, and what are we doing to those guys and saying, you're not allowed to call these guys a Master Chef because they're not even qualified to be a chef.
They're not qualified to be a co-meat.
Understand your point.
That detracts from my certification.
Understand your point.
Correct. That's
Sure.
what I'm saying.
Unfortunately, you know, and there has been some discussion in the past, and there have been some issues with the World Cook Societies as far as the CMC that they use, because ours is trademarked and registered. You know, TV is TV.
It's not real.
I understand that. Just like who likes to listen to Gordon Ramsay yell every night on TV in Hell's Kitchen? You know, it's a joke. But I understand the point. There will continue to be discussions, and how once we get things worked out as far as our certifying body and moving forward, it's something we will look at. It's not something I can change overnight.
I think the point being is you can be arrested for calling yourself an attorney if you don't have a bar card.
Right.
You can be arrested for impersonating a police officer. You can could be arrested for impersonating a doctor. Why not? I mean, if our education level is so high, and we've been elevated from being domestics to now we're professionals.
Right.
Why can't we do that?
Okay, I defer to my colleague in the back, our executive director, Heidi.
So just, if ACF is made aware, and I'll just refresh your memory, Chef, of a certified individual calling themselves a certified executive chef, master chef, whatever it may be, and our records indicate they are not, we send a cease and desist.
Correct.
So that's possible.
Yes.
Yes.
But we need to be made aware, now we're not on witch hunts, I mean, the office is not, they
Right.
are made aware, they are addressed. They are given a certain length of time, we do go to an attorney, but our, until we get into the law, this is and increase our legal budgets of pursuing those, and if they do not do it, I mean, then we get into some legal ramifications. I can't say per se that we pursued it beyond an attorney letter. I would say the majority of the time, they remove it and they comply. But we need to know from individuals out there, we are aware of some websites that have done this, when we pursue websites. We pursue other organizations, because I know Joe is
Right.
sent us,
You know, there,
other organizations that certify and call us the same.
But you also have to address the fact there's a big difference between a certification and a licensure.
Correct, right.
So, a doctor is licensed, we're not.
Right.
So that's the big legal problem that we had from years ago.
right,
That we addressed that, and we have to be careful. One of the biggest concerns that I have as a member of this organization is that at this point, we're allowing our parent association, the World
Cook Society.
Wax.
Is that if you, I just went, and it happened last night, because I'm really in tune with that, just looking at that and follow up on it. So I looked at the JW Marriott, and we looked to go to brunch this morning, and it said the executive chef, and underneath it said his name, CMC, certified master chef, and then it followed with wax along the way. Is that what we're accepting, the fact that we can do that? Or once you say certified, because we trademarked, when I was on the board, we trademarked that all of our acronyms were, after
Correct.
our certification levels. What do we do about that? We need to go first to the industry and to the wax and say, what are we agreeing to? Because now, it's easier in some ways to get certified by wax than it is from the ACF. So that's something I think as an organization we have to address.
Sure, very much so. And there have been, times where regarding certification, there are chefs that have had a website that says, I can teach you how to become certified. And that has been brought to our attention, and we have, addressed it. You need to stop promoting this, that you can teach people how to, become certified. So.
I think we've got two different distinctively or groups of people. There are certain people out there that call themselves a certified executive chef that have never been a member and never have gone through the certification process. And I think that's one group that we definitely have to send a cease and desist to. But there's a separate group out there that actually were, at some point in time, ACF members, actually did attain the CEC certification and now have dropped off the membership roster forever. But they still use CEC in their title, and they use it to market themselves.
Sure.
And I think there's an opportunity for us as a group to go back after that group and say, come back to the fold. Come back in as a member, because we're looking obviously to grow our membership. And I think that's probably the bigger group of people that exist out there that are incorrectly using the title.
Agree. And, we have a few minutes left. There, I think it was 2002, there was an agreement signed with, I think it was then President Ed Leonard, with Candy Wallace, who was the president, and who still is, I think, the president of Personal Chef Association. Well, at our last meeting, we checked, and there are only 7 certified personal chefs, and there are only 13 certified personal executive chefs. And we went onto their website and we found that the information is old. In fact, that we could tell by the logo on the jacket. You know, the logo that was being used was the old ACF logo. So they haven't done anything to update the information, and we haven't done anything to make sure that they're staying current. I have asked President Macrina to reach out to Candy Wallace to see and get them back on board, to get that up to date and current. Because it is a reflection on us. They're behind the times. We have spent a lot of time and money to create and have the PCC and the PCEC designations created for them, and it's something that we could have spent our money else in a different direction if we didn't do that, and we need to see if there is that interest to continue that. And I'm going to have one more question from my friend Chef Ellis.
I'll be brief, I hope. The use or misuse of the term chef has been a problem for years, or been a challenge for years. And remember, we always used to compare ourselves to doctors in the medical industry and that kind of thing. This is where we wanted to be. We wanted to have the same respect as doctors have. But if you look in the advertising, and if you look in the commercials on TV, and you might see an automotive store, bring your car to me, our doctors will fix your engine. So it's hidden there too. However, let's get back to the word chef. Some of it is our own problem, because we took a word from the French language, okay? But we didn't take the whole title. Nobody wants to be called by the full French name of chef de cuisine, which of course means chief of the kitchen. Just like if you see the old movies in Paris, you see the police chief, you see on this door, chef de police, because he is the chief of the police, and nobody else can call themselves that. But there's probably, I don't want to throw percentages out, but there might be 90% of the people in the United States and other countries who use the term chef don't even know what it means. They all think, oh, that's the cook. Not even the head cook. Oh, a chef is a cook. So I think, that's a big subject, but you think about that, everybody, We are chefs of the kitchen. Are we going to use it in English? Are we going to use it in French? Right now we have our French. So I just wanted.
Thank you. Yeah. Dennis is always a wise man as far as the history of the culinary profession, and always has truth to be told. So it is 6:32. Is there any last question? I want to say thank you very much for coming. It is truly a privilege, and thank you for your interest in conversation.